Other big news in the U.S. these days is what we can glean about something called the Trans-Pacific Partnership. What can you tell us about this trade deal that's being described as NAFTA on steroids?
Well, actually, I can't tell you very much because it's being kept secret. Not entirely secret. Major corporations are part of the process. They know what's going on. The public is kept almost entirely out. Probably there's some selected elements of Congress that are allowed to know a bit, but it's essentially an executive agreement jointly with multinational corporations. We can imagine what it's like, and there's leaks here and there. It appears to be basically within the kind of framework of the World Trade Organization and NAFTA rules. These things are called free trade agreements. They're not. They're, for one thing, a lot of what they're involved with isn't even trade. It's just called trade to sneak it into these agreements. So a good deal of NAFTA and the World Trade Organization rules are investor rights provisions. That has nothing to do with trade. It's called trade-related investment mechanisms or something. A lot of it is pure protectionism, very high protectionist elements. It obviously undermines free trade for the benefit of pharmaceutical corporations, Disney and others. It's just to try to protect their exorbitant profits and harm the population. These are patent rules so high that if they had existed in the 19th century and been enforced, the U.S. would be an agricultural producer today. Could never have developed, nor could any other country. In fact, England couldn't have developed because it was violating what we now call piracy, is the way the rich countries developed. Now there's a phrase for it in trade theory. It's called kicking away the ladder. First you violate all the rules, market rules, and then by the time you've succeeded in developing, you kick away the ladder so others can't do it too, and you prate about free trade. The pharmaceutical corporations, for example, claim that they need these exorbitant profits for research and development, but it's been shown pretty well, particularly by economist Dean Baker and a couple of others, that most of their serious research, the hard research, is done in the public sector anyway. And if it was all done in the public sector and they were forced onto the market, that'd be a huge saving to consumers, but of course reduction in profits. And that's the kind of thing that's going on.
And what happens to our worker rights and, well, labor rights and environmental protections, such as they are, in deals like this? What do we know from NAFTA about whether the standards of all the countries involved, and we're talking about 17 countries in the Pacific Rim, including Vietnam, whether they rise up or trickle down?
Labor rights don't exist. In fact, NAFTA is a good case. It's been studied quite well. It's one of those rare trade agreements where the working class and the peasants and farmers in all three countries suffered a lot of profits. But one of the reasons for NAFTA, for example, is take the Mexican. There's supposedly an immigration crisis in the United States. Why? Why are people fleeing to the United States? Well, some are actually still fleeing from the ravages of Reagan's wars in the 1980s and Guatemalan highlands and so on. But plenty are coming from Mexico. The Mexican-U.S. border used to be an open border, pretty open border. And pretty much the same people live on both sides, like most borders. It was established by conquest, in fact, a very aggressive war. The U.S. conquered half of Mexico. In 1994, Clinton started militarizing the border. 1994 is the year when NAFTA was pushed through. We don't have internal documents, so you have to speculate. But I think it's likely that the Clinton administration understood that NAFTA was going to undermine Mexican farming. Mexican campesinos are quite efficient, but they can't compete with highly subsidized U.S. agribusiness. The U.S. doesn't observe the free trade principles. Those are for the weak. So the agribusiness is highly subsidized and pours products into Mexico, drives out Mexican farmers. Maybe they try to go into the cities, not enough jobs to support them, so they flee across the border.
If that's what happened under NAFTA, what can we expect if the Trans-Pacific Partnership goes forward?
Well, probably on steroids, like the critics are saying, but we really can't be sure because it is kept secret from the population, though not from the corporate sector, from which we can draw some plausible conclusions in any event. This is being rammed down the throats of the populations of the world by state corporate power acting in tandem, so we can make guesses as to what it's likely to be. Quite apart from the record, we've seen what the others are.